Welcome to the Transport Leaders Podcast, where we discuss the breakthrough ideas and bold solutions transforming the future of transport around the world. Join a global community of transport leaders, professionals, academics, and advocates as we unpack transport's toughest challenges and spotlight the strategies driving real change. From system reform levers and political realities to sustainability and technological disruption, experienced transport professionals, McCabe and Russell King, and their guests offer expert perspectives as we discuss ways to transform our transport systems.
G'day, I'm McCabe. I'm the founder of Step Advisory, a transport planning and traffic engineering consultancy, and I've got 25 plus years experience working around Australia and Asia.
Hello, I'm Russell King. I'm a transport strategist and the founder of the Transport Leader blog and newsletter. I've worked on the policy side of transport for around 20 years.
Okay, Russell, what are we going to talk about today?
Oh, we're going to talk about one of the flavors of the month, Graham, today, artificial intelligence. But we're not going to talk about autonomous vehicles. We'll save that for another time. Today, it's about artificial intelligence and decision-making in various aspects of transport planning.
Okay, so as you said, AI is the flavor of the day. And quick primer on AI. If you hated maths at uni, or high school, then you're probably going to struggle with understanding AI, because AI is a bunch of matrices that are doing massive multiplications across millions of dimensions. And they have basically what are called transformers and tuning dials, and they feed at its highest level for large language models, so ChatGPT, etc. They feed all this data in, say, tell us what the connections are, and then the training is tweaking dials in order to get a higher probabilistic outcome. So the AI can guess what the next word is, what the next result is, through all these multiplications. And basically what they're trying to do is replicate the synapses in your brain where connections are made, and the stronger the connection, the more likely it is to be correct. And the way AIs hallucinate is the probabilities between weak connections can actually add up to a strong connection in comparison to other potential routes. Okay,
that's quite technical.
It is. And if you really want to learn about it, there's a YouTube channel called 3 Blue 1 Brown. And he uses visualizations to explain how AI actually works. So basically, it's a whole heap of multiplications with each word or number or thing that you're analyzing having a probability associated with it. And at the end, the thing with the highest probability wins, and that's what gets spat out at you.
Okay, so let's get onto some more practical stuff rather than the theory and technical understanding of AI. We're going to be talking about AI decision-making.
Yeah.
Do we actually have AI decision-making taking place in transport? Is AI actually making a decision, or is it at the moment really just informing a decision?
So there's a subset of AI called machine learning, and we've been using machine learning in transport for decades.
Give us an example.
So the adaptive traffic control systems that are used around the world. So the SCAT system from Australia, the Scoot system from the UK, they track and record what is going on with the road network all the time. So how many cars are going through this intersection every Monday morning at 9 a.m.? What should be expected for Monday morning at 9 a.m.?
Yeah.
So
and the lights are adjusted accordingly.
And the timing of how much green you get, which part of the intersection gets green at any time, and how the traffic lights coordinate up and down the road is based on the information that's collected and put through the algorithm. So, the algorithms are just big math formulas. They get turned into machine learning, where the computer uses those algorithms to make judgments. And then the next level of complexity is what we call AI.
So in these automated systems, traffic light systems, are they actually making decisions?
Yes.
Or, okay. Yeah. And so how are we controlling the AIs around their decisions? Are we just sort of setting the objectives and the parameters around the decision making they make?
Yeah, that's a very good way of summarizing it. So the traffic signal managers will they will do some analysis themselves and then set the parameters up of, we want to prioritize traffic going down this road, not the traffic coming from the side street. Within that, and we think a cycle, which is basically, I get a green, then I get a red, then I get another green. So when I get the second green, that's the traffic lights having gone through a cycle. So the operators will say, here's a range that you can operate within, and you can also do these movements for that Monday morning. So they set the parameters, and then the computer does the rest of it. Okay.
So we've been using these models and machine learning models for quite a few years, a couple of decades at least, right? So that's not new, although some of the spin around them is now new.
Yes.
Right? But it's because AI has become a big buzzword, and if you put AI on anything, it becomes more interesting, and valuations of companies go up and all the rest of it, right?
Yes.
So that's one thing. So, but we've ended up with like new stuff in the large language models for like ChatGPT and others. What is it that's new? How are we applying these new AI models into transport now? What are the best case studies you've seen or use cases?
Yeah, so there's identifying correlations. So the models are really, really good at processing very large amounts of information, but they don't give you intelligence. So they're like normal transport models in a way. If you teach a 14-year-old how to build a transport model, they can build a transport model. Doesn't mean it's actually any good. So, same with AI in transport. So if you put a whole heap of massive amount of data into an AI and say, tell me how to improve the bus reliability, it will tell you where you don't have reliability and where you do. It won't, unless you're combining multiple sets and you're providing training data and also what the connections between different data sets should be, then it won't be able to, it'll be able to tell you when it's happening. It won't be able to tell you why it's happening. So getting to the why is the really important thing. So that's where human in the loop becomes really important.
Okay, so in terms of its usefulness right now, it's sort of useful for flagging up things that need further investigation. Is that kind of the big value add that it's doing? So rather than a human having to do that through many hours of work, AI can now do it very quickly and sort of say, here's some things effectively that you should be looking at more detail to understand what's going on.
Yeah, and the amount of data that we have is beyond human capability. So if you think about real-time information, that's being recorded of the position of buses and trains, how many people are on them, where they're getting on, where they're getting off, are they transferring between different services. That is beyond just pure capability of a person to analyze. A transport planner could maybe analyze a day, a week, but not a month. Well, maybe a month, but definitely not a year's worth of data for an entire system.
Yeah,
like, there's just too much data there for a person to use. So having machine learning, and having, but also then going to a generalized AI where you can go, okay, well, we've got this data for this city. How does it compare with similar data for other cities?
yeah,
And if another city has improved, going, well, what did they do? So connecting into that generalized, I suppose, search function, and I probably wear a hand over to you because I know you use, AI in helping you find information for your for the blog.
yeah,
For you then to review and write up.
yeah. I mean, most of I use, you're looking for like research papers and stuff. So I tend to use Perplexity because it gives you the references. So it'll tell you, here's something, but here's the reference that I got this from. So you can go to the reference and then go and read it. So I use it kind of for the research aspect of a blog very well. But I guess the question then becomes, how good is the data or the data, right? Because one of the things I know about data in transport is the quality is highly variable, and a lot of agencies do not have a high level of maturity when it comes to data. So presumably there's a kind of rubbish in, rubbish out problem here as well.
Yes. So all data needs to be cleaned. To give you an example of a project that I worked on, I was getting what's called weight in motion data. So measures how heavy trucks are, how much weight is on all of the axles as a truck is going along the road. And the analyzed data from the system that I was given was telling me that a very large proportion of semi-trailers, tractor trailers for people in North America, were very significantly over mass and on a road that has mass limit inspectors. So the people who pulled this data out and gave it to me were data people. Their job was to just collate data, produce dashboards and things. So when I got detailed data, and I'm like, well, this isn't right, because it's saying, it's giving me results that are impossible.
Yeah.
Like, they don't. You have to have people who actually understand the system.
Yeah.
Reviewing the data, because otherwise you get given nonsense.
So this is an interesting question then, because these were the data people that you got the stuff from.
Yes.
Right. But I'm guessing that these are not therefore highly skilled data analysts who understand this level of understanding on clean data, etc. That is it the data analyst role here that's responsible for making sure the data is good? What's missing here in terms of capability? Because this is a key challenge moving forward in transport. And these people are not readily available, right? There's a lot of competition for people who are good with data.
Yeah, so this is where I move into grumpy old man territory.
What, we ever left grumpy old man territory? I thought we just all agreed that we'd always be in grumpy old man territory. Okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't realised this was cheery Graham mode. Okay, sorry, I missed that. Go on, Harvey.
So, I can be grumpy with a smile on my face. So what's happened is data has obviously as there's more and more data, there's more and more tools, there's more and more systems. Data in itself has become its own specialized part of transport. It used to be that you would have people who were experts in the area would also be the ones who found the piece of technology, understood how to pull the information out of it, analyzed it.
Yeah.
And that was fine when you only needed small amounts of information.
Yeah.
So we've gone from experts who really understood the thing that they were collecting, because that was actually what they focused on. We've moved to data people who understand how to collect massive amounts of data, but we don't have the experts.
Okay.
So who can say, actually, before you publish this or you hand it to anybody, we need to clean all this junk out. So another government agency that I was dealing with, publishing motor vehicle registration data. And, something that used to be kept, very private within governments, very hard to get a handle on. So they went, well, we're open data people, we'll put it up on the web. But they changed their classification methodology partway through releasing all this data.
Yikes.
And I was analyzing the data. I went, oh, hang on a second, you've got duplication of records. And it's like, ask them the question, did you change your data classification? And they went, oh, yeah, we did. So they put a little note up on their website to say, if you're getting data from before this time, these vehicle types have this classification and they have this classification afterwards.
Yeah.
So that was really good. They're really responsive. They took action when it was pointed out. But it's just that, a machine can't tell you that.
Yeah.
That's just been a misclassification.
So pulling this back to the artificial intelligence decision making.
Yeah.
All right. Can you even use artificial intelligence if your data going in is rubbish? Is this a black and white, or is this a kind of, there's shades of grey in here?
There's shades of grey. So if you have something that you know and trust that you're using as the baseline, then you can look at the information that's coming in that's not necessarily grey, and say, okay, well, going back to the strong and weak connection things, we will prioritize this good quality information and deprioritize this bad quality information, and we'll use it as a backup.
Yeah.
So, but it does require people who understand the thing that they're measuring or planning or analyzing.
Okay, so in terms of then using AI for decision making in transport, it's not going to be as simple as give your AI system a whole load of data, train it up on that data, and you're all good, right? Before you even get to that point, you've got to understand your data and the quality of the data and the job that you're asking the AI to do with that data, and which bits of the data it should use and which bits it shouldn't. So there's a whole bunch of work to be done in becoming data fit, or having a really good understanding of your data, whatever describe it, right? That's not bread and butter for transport agencies historically, is it?
At a small scale, it is, because that's how transport agencies build their models and do their planning. Is they collect data,
okay,
they clean it, and then they make approximations to the real world. So they'll do something like a household travel survey, asking people where they go, how they get there, what they're doing, were they alone, did they go, where they're going to work, where they're going to shops, etc. Historically, very small samples of people, in those type of surveys. And then some will be combined with motor vehicle registrations and census data and collected volumes of cars or people on public transport, and developed up into a citywide transport model, which is a form of artificial intelligence. It's an algorithm that's, a bunch of algorithms combined together that then use another algorithm to assign people onto a network.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of more data available now in those spaces, which theoretically should be able to enrich and improve the quality of the decision making that you're doing, whether that's sort of GPS data from people's mobile phones or other data available.
Yeah, but it's also the quality of it. So, City of Boston, they developed a AI system and an app which relied on people's mobile phones to identify potholes.
Yeah.
And the problem was you couldn't be using the mobile phone. It had to be sitting, like you couldn't actually be using the mobile phone to do other things. So it took out anyone who was a passenger from being able to roll potholes. So what they ended up finding was all the potholes on roads in wealthy areas where there's single occupant vehicles, not roads that had people who were carpooling or were on buses.
So that would then distort decision making in terms of where the potholes were getting fixed.
Yeah. So, in the the law of unintended consequences is like they started funneling their road maintenance money towards the wealthiest suburbs, because the wealthiest suburbs, the people had the ability to put the phone on this passenger seat next to them, so it could be measuring the up and down of the road. So they discovered that quite quickly. But it goes back to what is measured matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, if you thought about it, you would, before you were rolling it out and making decisions, you should have been looking for, does this make geographical sense based on what we currently know about our pothole frequency, right, and the roads where they occur?
Yes.
And you're like, well, it doesn't make sense, so therefore, what's going on? Can we understand this in more detail? Before you were rolling it out and turning it into, this is how we now operate as standard. Yeah.
So other cities learned from that. Learnt that lesson, and now they
thank you, Boston, for educating us.
Yeah. Well, Well, so now they put them on garbage trucks. They put the same type of sensors on garbage trucks because the garbage trucks travel every street, and they do it regularly. So you're actually getting your entire network covered, and you're getting it covered really frequently. And again, there's too much data for a person to analyze, and you want an AI that has a pattern recognition system of, this is what happens when a vehicle goes over a pothole. Find locations where that pattern is being repeated.
Okay, so let's take the thing. So the AI, let's assume you get good data to start with, right? And so you take humans out of the loop, and the AI now does the decision making. And you put AI on, makes the decisions on which potholes to fix and where. And let's assume that, you have thoroughly tested it to make sure it's not, biasing particular socioeconomic status or geographical areas, etc., for various unintended consequence reasons. Okay, and you're comfortable now with the results that it's delivering. So you now have your AI making all the decisions. Humans are out of the loop. It could change, couldn't it? Something could occur where it's no longer making good decisions. I don't know what those could be, but one of the things you'd want to be is making sure that you're auditing those results periodically to be confident that the AI is still delivering what you intended it to deliver, and not making, for whatever reason, hallucinations or any other reason, decisions which were not what was originally intended through the objectives that you set. Is that fair?
Yeah, and going back to what you're saying about using perplexity is, you have to have a reference which is a source of truth that is always being checked against.
Yeah.
And if you hand it all over to AI, then as you know, using that example, you've got a infinite maintenance budget, you fix all your potholes. So the new data that's coming in will find smaller and smaller potholes because the algorithm is being trained on the new data that's coming in. So if you don't have the human in the loop, it will end up eventually recommending resurfacing brand new roads because people listening, I'm putting my hands about a foot apart. It's gone from finding potholes that are a foot deep to finding potholes that are an inch deep. But that's an inherent nature of AI because
can I just say, if there's anybody there who's involved in road maintenance and is worried about AI, fixing all your stuff that's a foot deep and ending up with stuff that's an inch deep, that is not something to worry about. Nobody
has infinite budget, so it's not going to happen.
Indeed. I think most road maintenance professionals will be like, oh, if only that was my big headache. My big headache was I'm over repairing.
But if you're but it applies to anything. As your median value flattens out, then what would have just been ignored before becomes an outlier.
Yeah.
So if you're dealing with big variations and you fix those big variations, then it gets incrementally smaller and smaller of what's an unacceptable variation. Because if it's trained to find unacceptable variations from the mean, then that's what it will do.
Okay, so we kind of covered some operational aspects of AI decision making. Let's talk about the more sort of strategic and planning aspects. Modeling, right? Yeah. How can AI help us with transport modeling?
So this is where I'm not sure of its benefits. And there's actually a really great discussion on LinkedIn about, is AI actually going to help with transport modeling? Because AI will tell you what people are doing.
Yep.
It won't tell you what they want to do or why they're doing what they're doing. So it will tell you that I'm going to the supermarket 3 times a week. It won't tell you what my choice decision is unless it has a link to my fridge and my pantry and knows everything in there. And it won't tell you why I'm picking that supermarket. It could do approximations around those things, but it won't tell you if a new supermarket was opened up with a different brand, then I might just completely change to that brand.
But in terms of transport decision making, that's a rich area of research, right? There's a huge amounts of research into what drives people's transport decisions, and the mode choice they make and those sorts of things. Okay, I'm not saying it's it's all sorted and we all know it, in an infinite, perfect way. We don't. Okay, but isn't one of the powers of AI that can really help us is that it can incorporate the evidence that we do have and the research that we do have into explaining and then predicting what changes can do based on that research? Isn't that one of the really powerful insights here, in that humans are kind of, you might miss a significant chunk of the research that's out there, whereas the AI will, theoretically at least, has a huge amount of, has access to all that research and understands it and is able to then apply it into the reason this is happening based on the research is best guess this thing.
And again, it tells you what is happening, not what could happen. So you think about job decisions. If you're lucky enough to be offered two jobs, say one's higher paying but further away, and one's lower paying but closer to where you live, and then an AI will say, well, based on your demographics, you're more likely to pick this job. But then there could be other extingent factors of one's government, one's a private company. What are your career prospects? So the decisions that all the AIs, all the models are agglomerated approximations, and now we're introducing a thing increasingly within modeling called agent-based modeling, where they do try and simulate individuals and their choices. And you need a lot of data for that, and you need the ability that algorithms and machine learning have to identify patterns from those, from all of that data that you can then put into the models. But again, it only ever tells you what has happened, not what will happen. And that's where a lot of people misunderstand transport modeling. Is transport modeling, like any modeling, is based on what we've seen in the past, here's what we think might happen.
Yeah. So one of the big problems I have with a lot of traffic modeling is that the benchmarks can be questionable. So if you're you're trying to create a more people-oriented city, so significant mode shifts to public transport and active transport from a car-oriented city, your benchmark doesn't exist, right? That is probably valid, right? In that same city's context. There's lots of places where there is an alternative context, right? But it's in a different country, with very different cultures, street layouts, all the rest of it, right? Yeah. And so what you often end up with is our prediction on, the traffic is based on the local, traffic, circumstances historically here in terms of things like mode share for car. So if your historic mode share for car is very high, in your new traffic modeling, your benchmark is going to be using something which has got high mode share for car, even in a strategy and a policy and an environment where you're expecting, you would be expecting significant mode shift away from the car.
Right? Yeah, and that's exactly right. So the algorithms that have been developed for predicting whether somebody's going to drive or not drive are based on historical information, and from that a probability model is determined. So apologies to anyone who doesn't like maths, but this is all based on maths. So it's
the engineers are in dream world on the pod.
Yes.
The engineers there. The policy people are going, oh my word, I'm getting out of here.
But it is, and the amounts of information that have been used to build these models has historically been very limited.
Yeah.
But this is what machine learning AI gives potential to do, is that we can start doing those kind of things and going, well, all the urbanists love what's happened with Paris. You can use data to go, okay, well, there's parts of Paris that are similar to parts of inner Sydney, and there's parts of Paris that are similar to parts of out of Melbourne, and have the changes that have been applied in Paris, what effects do they have on the parts of outer Paris that are similar to outer Melbourne? So there's more traffic in outer Paris now because there's people going around the city. So people who were previously driving through the city are now driving around the city.
Yeah.
So, which from a city perspective is great, but a suburb exurb perspective is not great.
And we're seeing this a lot with the challenges for mayors in cities that who are making these sorts of changes. Very popular in the inner city, much less popular in the suburbs and exurbs of the region.
Yeah.
So you're seeing an increasing city versus region political tensions on this. But even on cities that we eulogize, I mean, you talked about Paris, but it's also true in Copenhagen and Amsterdam, that we think of as cycling utopias. That's true in the inner city. It's not true in the outer cities aspects for Denmark and Amsterdam either.
Yes, one of the things that I've always told people is the car mode share in the Netherlands is 60%.
Yes.
It's a lot lower than any city in Australia or New Zealand, but it's still 60%.
Yeah, it's still the majority, right?
Yeah.
Right. So even in our utopian, eulogized cities, it's a massive challenge.
Yes. So, and again, big advantage of machine learning and AI is you can start disaggregating those people. So you can look at, okay, people who live in the inner city, here's their mode choice profile. People who live in the suburbs, here's their mode choice profile. And what's the value that gets them to change how they're traveling or where they're living.
Yeah.
What's that dial? And that's where you need the ability to analyze very large data sets that individuals or even teams can't do.
Okay, so let's go with an example on terms of applying that modeling and sort of route optimization and scheduling. Okay, so let's take you're looking at your bus network in terms of the service provision.
Yeah.
Theoretically, this hypothetically, it's like AI was going to take all this data, it's going to spew out at least some options in terms of how you're going to improve your transport network. The challenge I have, I suppose, is before that, which is you need to come up with some principles around what you're trying to achieve with your bus network, right? Because bus networks, there isn't like, this is a good bus network, this is a bad bus network. It very much depends on what your objectives are, right?
Yeah.
So if your objective is everybody has access to a bus service, no matter how frequent or infrequent it is, okay, that's one way of getting a bus network. And at the other end of the spectrum is, we're going to focus on some core routes which are going to run turn up and go services, during large swathes of the day from 6 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night. There'll be a bus every 10 minutes or more frequent than that. Okay, and it's going to be highly prioritized, etc. And we're going to focus on delivering those core trunk services because that will drive patronage, and we're going to feed everybody into those trunk services. Okay, the challenge with the latter one is you then lose the coverage because you can't then afford to do the coverage as well as the trunk service. The challenge with the coverage option is none of the services are good in terms of getting you to point A to point B. They're not frequent, they're not regular. Okay, and so you end up with those are the two extremes. And one of the things you've got to work out here is what's the right trade-off that I'm happy with and the right balance, right? Because if you don't have that discussion, And one of the things I would say is right now in the sort of policy and political world is that discussion doesn't happen strategically normally, right? So there isn't a kind of conscious decision by a mayor or a minister for transport that says, I'm going to prioritize, coverage, or I'm going to try prioritize trunk routes, or I'm going to go 50-50, or I'm going to go 80-20. Okay. It tends to be a kind of, trust the modelers. The modelers then come back and go, here's what we've got as an improved system, and this will show an increase in patronage by X%. Okay. And it doesn't necessarily show the equity issues, for example. They're often not included or whatever. So when you want AI, when you're talking about AI, you don't want AI making these decisions. But at the moment, these decisions are effectively, I think, not discussed with decision makers, ironically. I think they're discussed within bus modelers.
No, I would actually, having seen network designs that go through political layers, generally it's a mix between customer service obligation, so making sure everybody has access to a bus, and then frequency and reliability where there's high demand. So it's generally a balance between the two, and as you said, the customer service obligation networks, they don't have anybody who has an alternate means of transport on them. Because they are attempting to cover every part of the world, so they end up being quite circuitous routes. And then the frequency networks, are generally less subsidized. So there is that decision being made by humans, which is feeding the network design. So then the programs that are being used at the moment are very much testing networks rather than designing them, so that there's the route design and frequency selection is still more human than machine.
Yep.
Yeah. But there's nothing to say that you can't program route selection and optimization within the machines. Because you have to tell it where the buses can, or where the buses can and can't go, and then also matching that with levels of potential demand.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess I'm less convinced about the political process on these things. I think it tends to be more of a sell to the politician rather than the politician setting out the parameters early on.
Yeah, there's
because I don't think if you said to most politicians,
I know examples of the exact opposite, where the sell to, so taking away coverage-based services, so community service obligation services, in favor of increasing frequency where there is demand, I have seen that fail, or changing the criteria to be, so historically it's been as the crow flies. So put a dot on a map, draw a circle around it, quite literally on a paper map, draw a circle around it, and say that's your catchment for a bus stop. Yeah. Which we don't need to do anymore. They can all be computerized. But that circle is still used rather than going, well, can people actually get to this stop?
Yeah. And
that's a political decision.
Yeah, and I would say that there are, I don't think that these the decisions with ministers take place at the appropriate level, because it's not as though it's community service obligations or not community service obligations, right? Because it's kind of like, is our community service obligation once a day, or is our community service obligation once a week? Right? Those are very different answers. Okay, so it's not a community service obligation, yes or no, and they both have massive financial implications, right? Depending on which one you choose, right? And then there's the trade-offs on things like the number of bus stops. You know, are we happy with the guidance on bus stops and explaining to ministers, you know, here's the impact if you have less bus stops, you know, or the optimum bus stops versus here's what we've got now because every Tom, Dick and Harry who requested a bus stop got one, you know, and now we stop every 200 meters or whatever. Right? Do those conversations really take place? I mean, don't get me wrong. I think whenever you make a change, there's always a political sensitivity over it, right? But in terms of what is the right balance that the politicians want to choose to try and get towards, even if they can't get there perfectly through, you know, as consultation takes place and there's political realities and tactical trade-offs and those sorts of things, do they actually know what they're trying to achieve? And I would argue, you know, it's at a very crude level and not something that is actually at a useful level in terms of driving better bus outcomes.
Yeah, so I suppose this comes to the question of, are there levels of self-censorship within bureaucracy? So, you know, getting back to the AI component. So if the AI comes up with a perfect bus network and the bus planners look at it and go, oh, actually, that's pretty good. And then they put it up to their seniors, and their seniors go, "Oh, well, we might be affecting this community, so we better put it in the briefing note." And then it goes up to the executive level within the organisation, and it's like, "Oh, well, last time we proposed a change that impacted this community, the local MP got upset with us. Do we want to have that fight right now?"
Yep.
So it may never make it to the minister's desk because people only have limited bandwidth to, you know, how many fights can you take on at once?
Yeah, but the question for me though is not if in an ideal world, I don't want that's the result of the modeling that you're then discussing with the politician.
Yeah.
Okay. In a way, I want to be discussing the parameters, the political parameters before that, because it's so that the decision on self-censorship or not is not there, because what's happened is the politician says, you know, I'm happy to lose coverage. Potentially could say I'm happy to lose coverage in the areas X, Y, and Z. I'm not saying that would always, you know, be the choice, or I'm happy to scale back coverage in this space. So from, if it's once a day now or twice a day, I'm happy to go to once a day instead of twice a day.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm happy to live with that in this area. Okay. So I'm going to go, that's the parameters, because I want you to put those resources into higher frequencies on these routes or, you know, down these corridors.
Yeah.
Right. Those kind of prioritization calls, okay, in terms of sort of outline parameters before you go into the detailed modeling and go, this is the sort of outline that I'm looking at, I think is a conversation that would be very useful to have politically, and I think we should be having politically, to get to, you know, I think one of the things I've seen too often is, you know, that doesn't happen, right? It's kind of like, it's a kind of, not quite a fait accompli, but it's kind of like, here's what we've decided is a better bus network. Can you sign this off, Minister, please? Right?
Yeah. So again, well, that comes down to bandwidth, doesn't it? So if you have a transport minister who's got 50 100 different competing issues that they're dealing with. And the network planning team wants to go, hey, Minister, we've developed this new algorithm, but we need you to tell us what's your priority. Do they get past the gatekeepers to have that meeting?
It's a very good question. Now, I would say, right, if you were doing significant changes to the bus network, any minister's office or any minister doesn't make that a priority, good luck to you. Because the amount of people that have lost their jobs over bus network changes around the world is quite significant. But I think you've got to do it in the right way, right? And highlighting. And so one of the things here is, what's the scale of the change that you're looking at? Are you just looking at tweaks here? Or, where, yeah, you're right. Probably, it's probably a written briefing to a minister and just tick and flick, right? Versus a more comprehensive network change, and I guess one of the things here is what are we asking AI to do? Are we asking it just to sort of optimize this route, right? Or are we asking it to optimize the entire network, right? Those are very different questions, and I suspect that we do the latter very rarely. We don't do comprehensive network redesigns very often for very good reasons.
Well, they take a lot of time and energy.
Absolutely, that's exactly
right.
And they are politically risky as well, right? So there's the appetite within the public service is not high, and the appetite within the minister's office is often not very high either. Right, it's only if the buses are really bad that you kind of go, we need to do it. Like patronage is dropping significantly over a period of time, but there's loads of bus networks out there that have been the same pretty much for 30 or 40 years, even though their cities have significantly changed in terms of the distribution of their land use. Job locations have more diversified away from city centres and those sorts of things, but the bus network is still doing the job that was asked to do 30 or 40 years ago. Anyway, we're getting away from AI decision making, but I guess my broader point here is, I think it brings to the fore these decision making issues more and more around AI, because if the AI makes a decision, the ultimate responsible person is the minister or the mayor, or whoever's implementing that. Is the political accountable person.
Yes, yeah, and
I think it becomes less defendable if it's an AI system as opposed to a human, technocrat. Okay, I think it's easier for a minister to say, this was the best advice I got from the technocrat. I think it's much harder if it's the AI system recommended this. I think that's much less defendable.
I honestly don't think any minister would be willing. Well, maybe in the US at the moment.
Well, my point is it changes things, right? In the sense of, you still the technocrat is now suddenly. I think the decisions around it and what the AI is advising you, I think, has changed the dynamic on the decision making a little bit. And I'm not quite sure how that plays out, but I think it does change it.
Well, and there's also an aspect which we haven't covered, is that the algorithmic AIs, so the math, the ones that use data and produce results based on math, they don't tell you how or why they made the decision. Whereas the human in the loop, so the traffic signal manager or the bus network planner, can say, when a minister says, well, why are we no longer going down that road? They have an explanation for it.
Yes.
Whereas if the AI spits out a result, then you have to back engineer the explanations for why these decisions have been made.
Yeah, and maybe that means the AI needs to be in the room with the minister. Why did you recommend, Because the thing is, that's right. These the number of questions that the minister could ask is quite substantial.
Yeah.
Right. You kind of want the AI system to be able to answer them, don't you?
Well, but the AI system has to know what its process was.
Indeed, yes.
Along the way. And
I use my intuition.
Well, even when you say show your thinking to an AI, there's still potential for hallucination within that process.
Yes.
Yeah, or a spurious correlation. A great website that people should check out, spurious correlations. There's the linkage between margarine usage and divorce rates.
Yes, it's a great one. I have to say that when my wife buys margarine, every day my heart dies a little bit. Yeah. Get the butter in, sweetie.
But that's what an AI will generate. There is no correlation between the two. It's just when you plot one on the x-axis and the other one on the y-axis, it makes a nice neat line.
Correlation is not causation.
Yes. Yeah. And that's actually the biggest problem with AI, and why you need a human in the loop, is because it will come out with things that are numerically logical or textually logical, which need fact checking.
One of the things about AI at the moment is what we're seeing is a lot of organizations are not hiring entry-level positions for graduates.
Yeah.
Because they feel that the work they used to get to the undergraduates to do, or the graduates to do, they're now using AI to do it. Is that true in sort of this transport AI world, in the traffic modeling? Are there sort of, entry-level transport modelers now who are no longer going to be, roles are no longer going to exist because the AI is replacing them?
Oh, look, you've got Google's entered the market, which is quite interesting because they have probably access to more data than anybody. And at the moment they're claiming that they will develop tools to assist people. Well, if you're developing tools to assist people, then the best person you can assist is yourself, and you can eliminate your competition. I've been poo-pooed for saying actually Google's coming to eat your lunch. Doesn't matter how good they are at transport planning. They have so much more data that they will bamboozle people and eliminate modeling jobs. Or, Google thinks they can do traffic signals better because they have lots of data. Now, What they can do is replicate the existing what traffic engineers are already doing with traffic signals, because they're measuring queuing and delay. So it's a traffic engineer can take that same data and re-optimize the set of signals. You don't need a company that's worth hundreds of billions of dollars to develop an algorithm to do that. They are already out there in the market. So I don't think that the industry is at risk yet, and particularly the traffic engineering side of things, because there's a lot of understanding of human behavior and actually having to stand out on the road and see what people are doing.
Okay.
And even with autonomous cars, you still have humans in the loop. Yeah, you have pedestrians, you have people on bikes, you have people waiting for bus, people wanting to cross the road, people overriding the autonomous car and what it's doing. So yeah.
So tying this up, our listeners are wondering, like, okay, what should I do about AI? Moving forward, what would be your advice? What would be your suggestion? Should they be just piloting and trying these things and slowly incorporating them into their systems and processes? Is that the way forward?
Well, the depends on what scale you're working at. So if you're working on things that are citywide, absolutely machine learning algorithms, but you always need to have humans in the loop who understand the system, and you need to be training the next set of humans who will then understand the system. Because if you go, oh, we don't need juniors, then you will then have to hand it over to AI, and nobody will understand why decisions are made. So why is that bus stop there? If you look at a map of a road network, then you'll go, well, there's nothing there. But it could be a public park that everybody who lives on the other side of the park walks through. So then you need to pick up the mobile phone data of those people walking through that park.
So there's a kind of use the AI for analysis, but you're going to need humans for context and understanding.
Yeah, decision support tools. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so you've got to be thinking strategically about the capacities and capabilities. You're going to need to do some stuff around making sure your data is right and fit for purpose moving forward as well. Yeah, that seems to be a good summary. So get out there, do stuff, get people working out on the data, start trialing out the AI, think strategically about the capacity and capabilities you're going to need to make this thing work.
Yeah, help use the AI to help identify things that need to be investigated, but don't let the AI do the investigation.
Okay, that sounds like a good place to finish.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Thank you for your time today, Graham.
Excellent. Thanks, Russell. And for everybody, we hope that you've enjoyed it. Whether you're watching or listening, if you've got any topics you'd like us to cover, let us know. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and if you want to buy us a coffee on YouTube or Patreon, there's links below, and you'll also find links to contact the two of us.